It Ends may just be a better anti-capitalist movie than I Love Boosters. Friends on a late-night food run become trapped on an infinite highway with terrors lurking beyond. Confined in their vehicle, they must decide whether to accept their fate or attempt escape. Okay, so this is your typical horror film. It's a thinking horror that is psychologically intelligent while examining the monotonous struggle of American working life. And it's also just a really terrible road trip. Four friends, Tyler, Day, Fish, and James, are finished with college and venturing into the phase of life where they figure out careers and life plans. As they're going to get food before heading to one of their apartments, they find themselves on a road that just goes on forever. And when they turn around, there's no leaving the highway. This then begins their trek, where they question existence, purpose, time, life and death, along with just attempting to figure out where the road leads and how they can escape it, if they even can. The horror aspect of this comes from the tension and the threat of the unknown. Imagine being stuck on something that just goes on forever, and you have zero clue as to how you wound up in or on this ride. Sooner or later, hopelessness begins to creep in, and that's when the psychological aspect kicks in to determine if you press on, choosing to believe there actually might be some way out, or you surrender to the futility and just simply stop. The cinematography is stunning for this. It captures the beauty of this tree-lined road that's lush, green, and vast, while also then creating an isolated and lonely backdrop that feels increasingly foreboding the longer we stay in it. There's also the variety of shots that are used to catch the mundanity of this forever road trip. Sometimes the camera is locked down and the scenes are edited so that the friend's position in the car changes, as does the lighting and the times of day, but the shot itself remains exactly the same, creating this illusion that we're along for this tediously droning drive along with the characters. And I also appreciate how much emotion is captured within these shots too. There are a ton of close-ups that are both intrusive and intimate. Again, just placing us amongst the characters as if we're sitting right next to them. We can feel the tension that starts to rise, as well as the frustration and then the despondency that builds. The dialogue is also witty without coming across as though the story can't decide whether to be something uneasy or comedic. The characters speak in terms and phrases that feel organic and natural, drawing me into their conversations rather than putting me off because they speak as though they're doing some kind of TikTok routine. And along with that, the writing is smartly executed, providing a ton of clues for the meanings of the story, as well as giving us some short but informative character background development. And this is where my whole intro about this being an anti-capitalist story comes into play. We've got four similar but drastically different life and career stages on display between the four friends. One doesn't really know what they're going to do. One is skilled but can't find a job despite having the education and practical abilities. Another is secure within their career in a skilled trade, while the last has secured a corporate gig with detailed goals for the trajectory of the next several years of their life. And then the one thing they share, especially as they find themselves stuck on this road, is the reality that despite what their aspirations might be, they're finding themselves already on a track that just goes and goes and goes until they either give up or die. And as an allegory for capitalism, that's truly horrific. The story illustrates how the machine puts us onto the path, and then we chug and chug away, where only a small minority actually get to live out the dream of not working until they die. But what I especially love about this theme for the psychologically messed up horror is how subtle it actually is. This doesn't beat us over the head with messaging. Instead, we get to see the slow withering of resolve, the characters grasping at any form of hope and sanity the longer their time on the highway continues. And then, to add even more weight to their plight, some threats linger in the surrounding woods, stuck just like the friends and desperate for escape. And these serve as an impactful illustration of what future could be looming for the four. Now, despite this only being 89 minutes, the monotony and repetitiveness of the road, it does begin to work its way into the pacing. This starts off strong with a rapid increase of suspense and dread. But then, as time stretches on for the characters, that dread and urgency, it just starts to fade, leaving us more with a sense of emptiness and futility. I mean, there's still a level of unease, especially given what the alternative is shown to be, but the storytelling slows, creating a longer watching experience than it really is. In the showing I was at, a lot of people left just kind of grumbling because it wasn't scary in the traditional sense. I get that. I mean, if the expectation is that this is a conventional horror with a defined enemy and threats popping out at every turn, this is definitely going to disappoint. But if you approach this as a story that exploits a growing existential crisis by examining the hopelessness of a life that then loses all sensation and novelty, replacing creativity and newness with the tedium of this prescribed reality of education, work, and death, then this is a truly horrific experience, placing a magnifying glass over what many are already trudging through. The writing is smart and natural, creating depth and meaning while not barraging us with obvious and preachy messaging. The filming is also beautifully captured, using nature's simplicity to craft a foreboding atmosphere where all sorts of threats and terrors lurk just out of view. And despite the film's pace losing momentum the further it goes along, this is still a compelling and uncomfortable road trip that won't leave you uplifted or positive, but instead just might make you question some of your life's decisions. There's no sex or nudity, a lot of profanity, and some violence. I give It Ends 4 out of 5 couches. I love the creativity and sparseness of this production. It showcases what great writing can build, regardless of budget size. Okay, are there any psychological or existential horrors you've seen that are especially memorable? I'd love to get some recommendations. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.